In this video, I want to show you the basics of naming convention and style guide that you should apply in JavaScript. So let's start with variable names. When you name a variable, you want to start with the letter and always use camelCase. So for example, that's a valid naming convention. For example, you want to change that to first name. That is the correct way to do it. You don't want to start your variable with uppercase. That would be a bad naming convention. Next thing let's talk about is spaces around operators. Some people write code by not having spaces around operators in such manner. This is not a good way to code because it's hard to read. So you want to have spaces around operators. Another thing is you want to always have two spaces if you're going to indent the code. So for example, if you have a function, say hello. You see I have two spaces in here. So you want to have two spaces to indent the code block. And do not use tabs for indentation because different editors look at tabs differently. So you want to make sure that you're using spaces or your editor is set up to use spaces instead of tabs. Yeah, if I tab right now, that just creates two spaces. And that's how you should indent all the code.
Once it goes through the compiler, it's the same thing.
You also always want to end statements with semicolons, even though it's not required, but it's a good thing to do. You also want to have one space before the curly brace. So this would be bad. This is the right way. The closing curly bracket should be on its own line. So this is a bad way to do it. This is a good way to do it. Speaking of naming convention, look at our function name. Do you see it also begins with a lowercase and it's camelCase. So what camelCase means is the first character should be lowercase. For objects, you want to place the opening bracket on the same line as the object name. And you want to have all the name value pairs on its own line. When you're naming your variables or functions, make sure that another developer can go through your code and understand what is going on right away. So for example, if you start naming your variables with one single letter word, it will be hard to understand what this function is supposed to do and what that variable a is for. And I've seen people write code like this, even make it worse, minimize the code by not having any spaces or anything. And it seems like, oh, you're saving space to a beginner, but in reality, this is very bad. Even when you go back to your code later, you might get confused too as what is going on. So never do this. Now this is really basic. If you want to learn more, I suggest Googling Google Style Guide for JavaScript. And they'll have all kind of information for you here, how you should write proper JavaScript code. And another guide I recommend is Airbnb JavaScript Style Guide. And as you can see, they cover everything from types, references, objects. And just go through this and you'll become a better developer just by sticking to conventions that they have. Alright, well I hope you enjoyed this video. This one was a quick overview of this because I noticed a lot of new developers make such simple mistakes. Alright, have a good one, subscribe, like, and I'll see you soon.